Serious. What's the creepiest, most interesting, solved mystery? The HBO documentary Mommy, Dead and Dearest. The mother of a sick and crippled little girl with cancer and various other bizarre medical conditions gets brutally murdered. It turns out the daughter wasn't sick or crippled at all. The mother was poisoning her with all these medications for illnesses she didn't have and making her pretend she couldn't walk. Munchausen by proxy. The daughter met a boy on the internet with autism, told him the truth and convinced him to kill the mother. Debugging behind the Iron Curtain. Computers at a Soviet train station would randomly bug out and no one knew why. One guy eventually traces it to when livestock was being brought in from Ukraine, where Chernobyl left the cows with so much radiation they could flip bits. That is insane. The McStay Family disappearance and murder. I'm going to fuck it up if I fully explain, but the short version is a family of 4 is found missing. Nothing disturbed in their home, it looked like they just up and left. A search is performed and their car is found near the Mexico border. Border surveillance is checked and a family of 4 who resembles them on grainy video is found, so everyone thinks that we're running away from someone. A few years later, someone off-roading in the California desert stumbles upon their remains. After digging deeper into the family's relationships, they arrest a business partner of the slain father of the family, and if I'm not mistaken, the trial is just starting or has been postponed to start very soon. My god, he allegedly murdered them with a sledgehammer, and investigators believe he tortured the family? Jesus Christ. The body in room 348. This is another one I posted before, but it's such a good mystery. Really, don't need my summary, go for the article. A man is found dead in his hotel room. He enjoys drinking and eating less than healthy and has been a lifelong smoker. It looks like natural causes from a lifestyle that caught up with him. He was found lying on the floor as if staggering for the door. The autopsy says otherwise. He's got a laceration in his scrotum and it's bruised and swollen as if he'd been given a hard kick. There's bruising in his groin that rises up through his hips and abdomen. Inside, his organs are bruised and lacerated. It looks like he was brutally beaten. However, his hotel room was normal, except, for his corpse. Nothing out of order, no blood, no signs of anything foul. Case goes cold. A new detective is brought in, one known for solving the unsolvable. He sits down with the medical examiner to go over autopsy photos and such. Then he figures it out. The man had been shot through his scrotum. That was the laceration, and the wrinkled skin folded to obscure the bullet hole. The bullet had travelled up through his body, causing the other injuries. So, who did it? There had been a group of men in the room next door, and one of them pulls out a gun and starts playing with it. It went off, firing through the wall into the victim's room where it hit him. The men used toothpaste to fill the bullet hole, which had been through a part of the wall that wasn't easy to notice. There's a couple that come to mind for me. The 30-year-old case murder of Raina Marroquin that was solved when a New York family found a 55-gallon drum in the crawl space of their basement that had been sitting there for years through many previous homeowners. The original Spiderman murder, pretty freaky if you think about it, makes you want to double check your attic and basement often, just in case. This man snuck into a couple's house and lived in their attic for years in a tiny makeshift room with a false door. He would come out at night to eat. One evening, the wife woke up to her husband being stabbed to death in the kitchen. Police were perplexed because there was no sign of breaking and entering or any other evidence at that. She lived in the home alone with this guy, secretly living in the attic for about a year, but left the house abandoned after much heartbreak. A couple of the original detectives on the case just couldn't get the case off their mind, so they would drive by the abandoned house every so often just to see if they could come up with some new ideas on solving the case. One night, on a random drive-by, they see a shadow of a man in the upstairs attic window and quickly bust in to see what was going on. By a mere second, one of the cops catches a glimpse of his foot going up into this tiny trapdoor. When they push it open, they find this man living in a tiny makeshift room with newspaper clippings of the murder. He would eventually come clean and confess to the murder. The thought of someone living in your attic or basement secretly without you knowing gives me the heebie-jeebies. Wow, I think I've heard that one before, but never in such detail. That's crazy. Posted this elsewhere, but the weepy voice killer was a serial killer who would murder women and then call the police weeping, stating his regret and saying he needed to be caught and couldn't help himself. Some of his calls are readily available on the internet and are pretty chilling. Anyway, he bit off more than he could chew one night with a prostitute named Denise Williams, who sensed danger, hit him with a glass bottle, and with the help of another dude managed to escape. Paul Michael Stefani was caught when he sought medical assistance and was identified by the dude who had clashed with him. He was convicted of a murder and attempted murder, but later confessed to 3 murders and 2 attempted murders when he realised he would die of cancer. The Benjamin Kyle mystery. Benjamin Kyle was the alias chosen by an American man who has severe dissociative amnesia after he was found without clothing or identification and with injuries next to a dumpster behind a fast food restaurant in Georgia in 2004. As a result of his lack of personal memories between 2004 and 2015, neither he nor the authorities were sure of his real identity or background, despite searches that used widespread television show-based publicity and various other methods. It was recently solved in 2015. It took 11 years, but they found out his true identity. There was a segment on the TV show Beyond Belief, Fact or Fiction, where a big brother was taunting his younger brother about a monster in the closet or something like that. Then, one day, the big brother goes into the closet and disappears. The show insinuates there was something supernatural going on, and viewers were freaking out when it was revealed to be one of the true stories. But it turns out that the big brother had some secret passage that he escaped out of, and he was basically just running away from home. Here's an excerpt from an article I found. A bit of digging turns up at least one comment on the show's IMDb message board, posted on February 12, 2008, in which the commenter shared her correspondence with someone who had worked on Beyond Belief and knew the actual truth. The Beyond Belief fact or fiction story about the monster in the kid's closet was based on an actual event that I personally investigated, she was told. At the time it happened, there was no explanation for the boy's disappearance, until 2 weeks later when it was learned that he had climbed out of the closet through a ceiling panel and ran away from home. He stayed at a friend's house surreptitiously until the friend's mother discovered him hiding in the attic of their home and exposed the ruse. The show's producer wouldn't discover this very important detail until it was far too late. In Pennsylvania, there was an urban legend of a thing called the Green Man, or Charlie No-Face. For many years, people would say they had seen this weird human-like creature wandering through the streets at night. It had no face and had green skin. After sightings became more and more common, some people started investigating. That was when they discovered Raymond Ray Robinson, the man behind the urban legend. Due to an accident with a power line, he became severely deformed. Because of the way he looked, people would panic wherever he went. His only choice was to walk at night. He was so scary that, more than one time, people tried to hit him with their cars, thinking they had found the famous monster Green Man. Search his name and you will understand why people were scared of him. Yeah, but I mean also, it's very sad, right? The disappearance of the Stardust. It's 1947, and aircraft manufacturers are in a race to profit from the post-war air travel market. Avro of England came up with the Lancastrian, a passenger version of the famed Lancaster with the same 4 Rolls-Royce Merlin engines. On a scheduled flight from Buenos Aires to Santiago, Chile, the Lancastrian Stardust of British South American Airways takes off and begins its dead reckoning navigation. It will be many years before directional beacons, much less widespread airport radar or electronic positioning systems. The navigator must give the pilot a bearing and note the airspeed and time for the different legs of the flight, then calculate the distance covered. The Lancastrian has ample power to cross the Andes, and the flight has been done without incident many times. At the appropriate time, the navigator tells the pilot to begin his descent into Santiago. The crew waits to drop below the cloud in confidence that the airport lights will be visible somewhere below. The plane sends a Morse code message to the airport ending in the odd term STENDEC, and then simply vanishes. When search planes find no trace of the plane, crew and 6 passengers, the disappearance is reluctantly consigned to the annals of unsolved mysteries. People jump on the story with multiple theories of what the strange message meant and speculate on sabotage, political intrigue, and even alien abduction. In reality, there are no explanations, and so it remains for 50 years. In 1998, 2 Argentine climbers have reached the foot of the glacier on Mount Tupungato, 50 miles east of Santiago. They spot a strange form which turns out to be a battered aircraft engine. There are also pieces of twisted metal and ripped clothing. Stardust has been found. A subsequent military expedition discovers other engines, wheels, propellers, and human remains. By now, a phenomenon that was virtually unknown in 1947 is understood and well plotted on a daily basis. the jet stream. Aided by a study of the wreckage, it becomes apparent that the plane flew head-on into a known jet stream at the high altitude needed to cross the Andes. Its airspeed, as opposed to ground speed, had remained normal, while it was in fact falling far below what was expected, and the plane was well short of its destination when the crew confidently began its descent. Stardust had apparently flown straight into the near vertical head of the glacier, causing an avalanche that instantly hid it from searchers. Over the course of 50 years, the maligned wreckage, crew, and passengers became part of the glacier, slowly travelling to its foot to await discovery. As for the strange broadcast, many solutions have been forwarded, but Stendek remains a mystery.